At what age did you find your career plan out, or what you wanted to do in the future?
Oh wow, I don't really know. Many of the things that I was actually doing in my life were opportunities that were presented to me, and I was thinking, well, I could give it a try. I changed my career plan quite often. I started education as an engineer, and at this time I was quite young. I was sure I would become an engineer. Then suddenly art became very important, and I spent several years working professionally as an artist. Then I got this opportunity to be the manager of a cultural institution, and suddenly I recognized that working for audiences, the educative approach is also very interesting and appealing. So I think the important point is really to stay open and flexible and see how your abilities can help you to use the opportunities that are there.
So you won't find it important for kids to have a career plan set when they were young in school?
No, I don't think it's important to have a career plan set. I think it's important to learn to know what are your capabilities, to learn to trust in that you can achieve something, to learn how to explore your capabilities. And I think we have so many different types of careers that at the end they need the same conditions. I mean, creativity and entrepreneurship, for example. You know, if you're a creative person, you can become an artist, but at the same time, you can become an entrepreneur because both is always driven by the desire, by the energy that you want to realize your own ideas and that you trust in yourself.
So you believe that for kids it's more important to trust yourself and actually take all opportunities you can, and that's what will make it easier for you to find a job in the future?
Of course, especially at the times that we are right now, we are no longer in a period of time where you could say, okay, I want to become this, and then I spend my whole life in this career. We are in a very dynamic, fast changing world, and what we need is much more the capability to adopt, to in a flexible way to respond to changes. So if you are too much concerned with, the career plan, it's like a very narrow alley, and I think the real qualifications, also what's important in school to learn, is to be open-minded.
So the more flexible you are, the easier it would be. But do you think it's easier for kids nowadays to find a job than for example 20 years ago or 30 years ago?
It might be easier to find a job, but it's definitely more difficult to stay in a job because qualifications are changing very fast. The whole landscape of economy, the whole landscape of jobs, job opportunities is changing so rapidly. We have all this technology growing so fast. We have automation not only in the factories, but computer digitization, artificial intelligence is changing every area of our economy and our business. So it is no longer about finding a job to have a job. It's about finding ways how you can, so to say, engage your capabilities. And you have to prepare. I think that's maybe not a very easy situation, of course, but you rather have to prepare that you will change your job quite often during your lifespan.
So it's best to just stay flexible, stay positive, and keep doing and keep following the path that you feel like is best, and just go with the flow rather than have a set out plan and just keep going with that.
Well, I think when we talk about having a set out plan, we often mean dedication, concentration, and being really serious about your education. I mean, this is definitely important. I think the most important thing is to use the time as a youngster in school also as much as possible to learn as much as possible, to gain as much as possible competences, knowledge, capabilities, because you never know what you will need. But it's definitely the situation that a certain skill set won't help you a lot. It's much more how to train yourself to be open-minded, creative, to be able to think out of the box, but still, of course, staying focused and being able to deliver also. That's, I think, very often the problem that one might think, oh, creativity is so nice because it's only ideas. Creativity is actually a very tough job because it really needs a lot of concentration to deliver as well.
Yes, sir. And on a different subject or something, Do you feel like kids nowadays are more racist than they were before?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, of course, we are at the moment in a society where we have a very stupid rhetoric going on, very often coming from populist politicians that try to create a kind of atmosphere of anxiety that the strange things, the strangers, the immigrants, the refugees are now becoming the big problem, or people who have a different religion, have a different culture. But I think especially kids have a very good sensitivity to understand that human values are beyond just these very narrow cultural categorizations. And I don't think that, especially when we talk about young people, that they are more racist nowadays.
Or do you say in your line of work you see racism happen all the time? Do you think that's very rare?
I think racism is definitely a very big problem of our time. I actually, and maybe I'm too positive about this, but I think that racism in general is not increasing. We just have a kind of communication policy at the moment, a rhetoric where elements of racism can be very easily used to deliver messages, to create headlines. So I think it's more a kind of very irresponsible utilization of racism for cheap political attention and this kind of things.
But for kids, do you reckon kids use racism more of a joke and don't really take it serious enough?
It's hard for me really to say it in a clear way, because I'm not so much involved, so to say, in really understanding this kind of subtleties in kids' culture and kids' communication. I mean, we see a lot of stuff where I think racism is more used maybe really as a kind of joking around, fooling around, and not really in a serious way, but nevertheless it can immediately become dangerous. I mean, it's one of these areas where we cannot be, enough aware and cautious that racism, the moment it really turns in a direction where it is offensive to other people, that we really have to be very careful in avoiding this. But again, maybe I'm in a privileged position. The kids I'm usually dealing with, they are very interested in culture, they are very interested in new ideas, they are interested in technology. And usually I see that, the moment you give kids the opportunity to really, so to say, find themselves, to find a meaning, a position in their life, racism is not a problem at all. I think racism is so often used as an excuse. It is so easy, and that's again why it's so irresponsible, to say it's the others that are responsible for problems and not ourselves. And I think this is something where we have to be quite careful about. And the moment kids are able to, as I always say, to find themselves, to express themselves, to be able to find their capabilities, then we usually see that issues like racism are not so strong anymore.
So you say that other races are what's continuing racism to an extent, and it's not just people being racist, it's them putting it on themselves to use it as an excuse to keep it further or something?
I think the main reason for racism in our society is because it's the easiest way to blame somebody else for problems. It's the easiest way to not take responsibility for our activities, for the problems that we are having. And probably this is the even more irresponsible way of racism, because it's using racism as a kind of political instrument.
Okay, well, I think we went far enough there. Thank you very much for your time. That was
You're welcome.
very nice of you.